A pleasant day, everyone. Welcome again to Virtual World. On your screen, no other than the one and only Rodolina Tado. I will be the one to continue the last part of our report, which is Chapter 9, Assessing Writing. My co-reporters already did their job to enlighten everyone about some things that need to be discussed under this chapter. And now I will be discussing the test of written English, scoring methods for responsive and extensive writing, beyond scoring, responding to extensive writing, assessing initial stages of the process of composing, and assessing later stages of the process of composing. So, without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy learning. Test of written English is one of an internationally available standardized test of writing ability. It was established in 1986, has gained a reputation as a well-respected measure of written English, and a number of research articles support its validity. This test is in the category of a timed impromptu test wherein the test takers are only given 30 minutes to answer the given topic. Topics are prepared by a panel of experts following specification for topics that represents commonly used discourse and thought patterns at the university level. Here is an example of a test of written English topic. Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Teachers should make learning enjoyable and fun for their students. Use reasons and specific examples to support your opinion. Test takers will be given 30 minutes to write their essay or response and will be scored in a holistic way. Furthermore, in assessing their written work, test of written English scoring guide may apply from the scale of 6 to 0. The test takers may receive the score of 6 if their response demonstrates clear competence in writing on both rhetorical and syntactic levels, though it may have occasional errors. 5 if it demonstrates competence in writing on both the rhetorical and syntactic levels, though it will probably have occasional errors. 4 if it demonstrates minimal competence in writing on both the rhetorical and syntactic levels, and 3 if it demonstrates some developing competence in writing but it remains flawed on either the rhetorical or syntactic level or both. 2 if it suggests incompetence in writing. 1 if demonstrates incompetence in writing, and 0 if it contains no response at all, merely copies the topic or is off topic and written in a foreign language, or consists only a keystroke characters. As their facilitator of learning, days before conducting the test of written English, it gives a huge help to advise your students to follow the 6 steps to maximize success on the test. So this is an advice from the test preparation manual, such as Deborah Phillips Longman introductory course for the test of English foreign language. So number 1, we have here carefully identify the topic. Second, plan your supporting ideas. Third, in the introductory paragraph, state the topic and state the organizational plan of the essay. The fourth, write effective supporting paragraph, show transition, including a topic sentence, and specify details. So number 5, restate your position and summarize the concluding paragraph. And the last one, edit sentence structure and rhetorical expression. So I will not dig deeper about this. It is now your task on how you introduce these steps to your students to maximize their success on the test. So now let's proceed to scoring method for responsive and extensive writing. So for a short review, responsive writing requires learners to perform at a limited discourse level, connecting sentences into a paragraph and creating a logically connected sequence of two or three paragraphs. So this genre of writing include brief narrative and description, short reports, lab reports, summaries, brief responses to reading, and interpretation of charts or graph. On the other hand, extensive writing implies successful management of all the process and strategies of writing for all purposes, up to the length of essay, a term paper, a major research, project report, or even a thesis. So, in order to assess this writing genre, scoring method for responsive and extensive writing may apply. It includes holistic scoring, primary trait scoring, analytic scoring, and objective scoring. So first to discuss is holistic scoring. This is a method, no? So holistic scoring is a method of evaluating a composition based on its overall quality. The test of written English scale that I mentioned previously is an example of holistic scoring, wherein each point on holistic scale is given a systematic set of descriptors, and the reader evaluator matches an overall impression with the descriptors to arrive at a score. With a holistic rubric, the reader assigns a single score, usually on a 1 to 4 or 1 to 6 point scale, based on an overall judgment of the student's work. Advantages of using this method includes fast evaluation, relatively high iteratory reliability, the fact that scores represent standards that easily interpreted by laypersons, and applicability to writing across many different disciplines. Even this method saves time by minimizing the number of decisions writer make, still it has also disadvantages. So by using holistic scoring, no diagnostic information is available, no washback potential to the task takers, and the scale may not apply equally well to all genres of writing, and raters need to be extensively trained to use the scale accurately, which is holistic scoring. A second method of scoring is primary trait. This method is not commonly used, and maybe majority of us found this unfamiliar. Now, primary trait scoring is focuses on how well student can write within a narrowly defined range of discourse. This emphasizes the task at hand and assigns a score based on the effectiveness of the task achieving that one goal. Like for instance, if the purpose of an essay is to persuade the reader to do something, the score for the writing should rise or fall on the accomplishment of that function. And if a learner is asked to exploit the imaginative function of language by expressing personal feelings, then the response would be evaluated on that feature alone. For rating the primary trait of the text, Lloyd Jones suggested a 4-point scale ranging from 0 if no response or fragmented response to 4 if the purpose is unequivocally accomplished in a convincing fashion. It almost goes without saying that organization, supporting details, fluency, syntactic variety, and other features will implicitly be evaluated in the process of offering a primary trait score. But the advantage of this method, it allows both a writer and evaluator to focus on function. In summary, this method would assess the following. So we have the accuracy of the account of the original, the clarity of the steps of the procedures, and the final result, which is a lab report, the descriptions of the main feature of the graph descriptions, and lastly, the expression of the writer's opinion or response to an article. So that is all about the primary trait scoring. Another method of scoring is analytic. It is an opposite to holistic rubric because it won't evaluate a composition based on its overall quality. Instead, there are categories used in scoring based on five components. We have the content, organization, vocabulary, language use, and the mechanics. So, for classroom instruction, holistic scoring provides little washback into the writer's further stages of learning, while primary trait scoring focuses on the principal function of the text and therefore some feedback potential but no washback for any of the aspect of the written production that enhance the ultimate accomplishment of the purpose. Classroom evaluation of learning is best served through analytic scoring, in which as many as six major elements of writing are scored. With that, it helps us to determine the weaknesses of our learners and to capitalize on strength. Brown and Bailey designed an analytical scoring scale that specified five major categories and a description of five different levels in each category, ranging from unacceptable to excellent. At first glance, Brown and Bailey's scale may look similar to the holistic scoring because each category has a description that encompasses several subsets. However, analytic scoring is more detailed. And here is an example of analytic scale for rating composition task. And you can find this on page 243 to 244 in the given module. Practically, this method required more time to evaluate your students' written work, but ultimately, students receive more feedback about their writing that help them out for better improvement. Assessing students by giving numerical scores alone are still not sufficient for enabling them to become a proficient writers, right? That's why we have beyond scoring, responding to extensive writing, in which we provide objective scoring procedure as possible. In fact, most writing specialists agree that the best way to teach writing is a hands-on approach that stimulates students' output, then generates a series of self-assessments, peer editing, and revision, and teacher response and conferencing. Because students become good writers by writing and seeking facilitative input from us teacher to refine their skills. In summary, to assess their writing skill, it is important to have a tutored relationship between the teacher and students. Now, to give the students the maximum of benefit of assessment, it is important to consider earlier stages from free writing to the first draft or two, and later stages or revising and finalizing of producing a written task. In assessing initial stages of the process of composing, well, first, the initial stages, it is the first draft or the second draft of a written composition. So these guidelines are generic for self, peer, and teach responding. Each assessor will need to be modify the list according to the level of the learner, the context, and the purpose in responding. So now we have here the assessment of initial stages in composing. So number one, focus your efforts primarily on meaning, main idea, and organization. So the second one, comment on the introductory paragraph. The third one, make general comments about the clarity of the main idea and logic or appropriateness of the organization. Four, as a rule of thumb, ignore minor or local grammatical and lexical errors. Five, indicate what appear to be major errors. Example, by underlining the tasks in questions but allow the writer to make corrections. So number six, do not rewrite questionable, ungrammatical, or awkward sentences, rather probe with the questions about meaning. And lastly, comment on features that appear to be irrelevant to the topic. In assessing the initial stage, we teachers should be their guide, a facilitator, and an ally. Therefore, assessment at this stage of writing needs to be as positive as possible to encourage the writer. An early focus on overall structure and meaning will enable writers clarify their purpose and plan and will set a framework for the writer's later refinement of the lexical and grammatical issues. Now let's move to assessing later stages of the process of composing. So later stages, it is now the revising and finalizing of their written work or their draft. So, one, the writer has determined and clarified his or her purpose and plan, and they completed at least one or perhaps two drafts. The focus shift toward fine-tuning the expression with a view toward a final revision. So we have here on how to assess the later stages. 1. Comment on the specific clarity and strength of all main ideas and supporting ideas and on argument and logic. So the second one, call attention to minor or the local, grammatical and mechanical, which are the spelling, punctuation, errors, but direct the writer to self-correct. So the third one, comment on any further word choices and expressions that may not be awkward but are not as clear or direct as they could be. So the fourth one, point out any problems with cohesive devices within and across paragraph. 5. If appropriate, comment on documentation, citation of source, evidence, and other support. And the last one, comment on the adequacy and strength of the conclusion. Through all these stages, it is assumed that peers and teacher are both responding to the writer through conferencing in person, electronic communication, or at the very least an exchange of papers. The impromptu time test and the methods of scoring discussed earlier may appear to be only distantly related to such an individualized process of creating a written text. But are they in reality? All of those developmental stages may be the preparation that learners need both to function in creative real-world writing tasks and to successfully demonstrate their competence on a timed impromptu task. And those holistic scores are, after all, generalizations of the various components of effective writing. If the hard work of successfully progressing through a semester or two of a challenging course in academic writing ultimately means that writers are ready to function in their real world context and to get a 5 or 6 on the test of written English, then all of the effort was worthwhile. This chapter completes the cycle of considering the assessment of all the four skills of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. As you contemplate using some of the assessment techniques that have been suggested, I think you can now fully appreciate two significant overarching guidelines for designing an effective assessment procedure. First, it is virtually impossible to isolate any one of the four skills without the involvement of at least one other mode of performance. Don't underestimate the power of the integration of skills in assessment designed to target a single skill areas. And the second, the variety of assessment techniques and item types and tasks is virtually infinite in that there is always some possibility for creating a unique variation, exploring those alternatives, but with some caution, lest your overzealous urge to be innovating distract you from a central focus on achieving the intended purpose and rendering an appropriate evaluation of performance. That is all for today. I hope you learned and understand our topic. And if you need something to clarify, don't hesitate to ask questions that is only related to our discussions. And it would be nice if everyone will share your insight. Just leave a comment below. So once again, this is Rodelina Tado. Thank you and God bless.